Let's do it.
Happy Monday. Happy first Monday of the new year. How is everyone and how are you, my darling?
I am good. Let me go live here
Oh,
on
yes.
Instagram.
Sorry,
Okay.
Instagram friends.
There we go. Go live. There we go. Well, welcome. And welcome to YouTube and our 3 Facebook pages, 2 Instagram pages, Rumble, Twitch, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. So, welcome everyone. Welcome to our first 2025 podcast of the year.
Yes, absolutely. I'm so excited to be continuing for another year. Excited to have everyone joining us still.
Absolutely. Well, how was your holidays?
The holidays weren't too bad. Right? So they weren't
Yeah.
too bad. Obviously very conscious about the holidays as far as what I do day in, day out. Not to say that it was perfect, but um being consistent with what I did allows for that little bit of flexibility. And I actually posted on my Instagram kind of a snarky post, if you will, because not many people between Thanksgiving and the new year lose weight. And I was able to lose weight because we have the MFF challenge going. So the meat, the fat, and the ferments, we still have 60 days or 60-ish days, 58 days because February's short of the challenge left. So we are, in it. Still time to join. If you want to join, absolutely join us. But with doing that, with being consistent with my circadian practices and all of that, I was able to lose weight during the holidays. And like I said, I wasn't perfect. I had foods that, I wanted, I was conscious about, and I made the choice to end up and consume them in that day,
Mm-hmm.
and leave them in that day, right? It didn't turn into a full on, having a bite of this, a bite of that, and licks and, tastes in between. Um, but yeah, my holiday was spent with family. We enjoyed time together. We went to church service with my mother. That's kind of become a new tradition with her, is to go to Christmas Eve service. And otherwise it was just spent with family and pretty laid back, and it was good. How about you?
Yeah, nothing exciting. My husband took the week off of Christmas. We spent a lot of our time out on the property, cleaning stuff up, mowing, burn. We have a lot of the former owner left a lot of trash, like a fence that broke down and rotted. Like we're tearing that up and slowly burning that. So did a lot of burning. And yeah, we didn't go. We did go eat at a Brazilian restaurant on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day evening in Fort Worth. And so I stayed on track. I didn't deviate. I didn't do much of anything. I did been trying to add some carbs in one day a week, um, kind of do a carb up or refeed. Just it's where I'm at
Mm-hmm.
in my healing process. So, been doing that. Wearing my CGM monitor consistently right now to watch what's going on with that. But I stayed on track. I didn't deviate. I didn't. We because we didn't go anywhere, we didn't really do anything, so it was status quo, but it was nice and relaxing.
Yeah. And that's the way the holidays should be, right? We shouldn't be stressing. We shouldn't be, um, you know, overtaxing ourselves or overwhelming ourselves, or, you know, it's gotten so far away from, you know, just being with people, being grateful for those that surround you, and just taking that time in. And
Mhm.
that's what the holiday, you know, is for me. It's not necessarily about the material items anymore.
Mm-mm.
It's more about, you know, just spending time with, and maybe that's just hanging out watching a movie, or maybe that, you know, whatever
Yeah.
the case may be. um my family does more of like card games and that type of thing, but uh yeah, it's just having fun and being together. So that's the biggest thing.
Yeah. So I read this interesting quote, and I don't know who to credit it to, but it kind of resonated with me. And it says, decide what you want in life and say no to everything else. And it's to focus on intentional living,
Hmm.
um, where you're at, what what do you want? How important is it to say no to everything else to get where you want? And as I reflect back on 2024, I would have to say that I had to learn to pivot my healing. So I had, you know, and of course I know you know, but for our audience, it was learning different, trying, I mean, different macros, and, you know, adjusting those macros and being more intentional about the beyonds, right? And
Hmm.
things like that. It was, I invested in a red light, an infrared, red light that I've been consistently doing. I went outside to see the sunset this evening and I got cold exposure tonight. And I know we kind of talked about cold exposure. And for those of you that follow Becky, you will see her out walking barefoot in the snow.
Yep, that's pretty much my my winter routine, if you will. um, it's it's just part of what I do, and I don't think, you know, I don't give it two thoughts, right? Because I'm so consistent in my morning practice that going out and embracing the cold, even if I think this morning it was like -4 and the wind chill was -17. I know we have Coach Sly up in North Dakota, that it was definitely colder there for her. She had sent me a picture, and I think the wind chill was like -27 or -30 or something. But there's a lot of benefit to it, and I can't say that I, you know, was barefoot tank top type person 3 years ago, right?
Right.
I was out there. I would have had, you know, my hoodie on or sweater on, and you know, I was embracing the cold, but I also had to change that mindset. And that's one of the biggest things. And I know you and I talk about it a lot, of changing the mindset, because it's not that I enjoy the cold. The cold is cold. Don't get me wrong. I love the aspect of, you know, heat. Um I don't want to live in, you know, a tent in the cold and anything like that. So I feel for those that, you know, are less fortunate, they don't have access to heat. Um, but microdosing or minimally going out and embracing the cold, it does help with the immune system. It helps with the metabolism. Many people, you'll see them doing cold exposure, you'll see them doing cold showers. All of that is activating that brown fat. So it does help the
Mhm.
body generate a heat. I know it sounds really weird to get cold so that your body gets warm, right? But it does help to generate that heat, and it actually also helps with the mood. um, and
It does. Dopamine.
it's
Yeah.
yeah, just creating those endorphins. And It will also help with the natural pain side. So when people are looking at natural remedies, that's one of it. Embracing the cold if you have pain and inflammation. For some, they, the winter time can increase arthritis, but if you look at and you embrace the cold, that will actually help with arthritis. It'll help with joint inflammation. So if you've been, think of like football players, for instance, or athletes that end up and do the ice bath after, working out or after an intense practice. That's to help with the inflammation side of the body. And like I said, it does sound weird, right? Embrace the cold to help with inflammation, but there is a lot of benefits to it.
There is even metabolism. I mean, it increases your metabolism because as you can burn calories because your core body temperature has to work right to keep you warm, and so that helps as well. So, yeah, it's free right now. It's even here in Texas, we're hitting some cold. Got down to 19 last night, and a little bit ago it was 34 when I was outside seeing the sunset. So, and I was stacking two practices at that point, seeing the sunset as well as getting that cold exposure. So, um, free stuff that it helps you heal.
Well,
Yeah, go ahead.
right. So the big thing, there is different aspects to the cold exposure, right? So when we look at cold exposure in general, just for anyone watching, also I will say, if you have any questions, whether you're on Instagram or one of the other platforms, make sure you put them in the comments, put it in the chat, depending on which platform you're watching. But as far as the cold exposure, one of the biggest things is looking at the temperature. So many people, kind of like southern folks here that normally don't get these cold temps, many people don't realize that anything below core body temperature, which is 98 degrees, right? But typically below 50 degrees is actually cold exposure. So once that temperature outside hits, that's why I talk about acclimating, because the more that you can expose yourself to these transitional in-betweens, right, of nature and how nature provides it, it will end up and help you transition. So when it actually gets like 50 degrees, or the studies are showing that temperature threshold, they like to use Celsius. So somewhere about 20 degrees Celsius, exposure ends up and actually helps increase that adrenaline, if you will, by 530%. It is so crazy, the amount. And I know we talk about the cold showers and stuff, increasing that by 250%. Again, that's where your temperature, your time, your type, and your technique, all four of your T's end up and come into play. So the temperature of your water, the temperature of your air, one of the things outside, or in a shower, the cold is constantly flowing. Where if you're sitting in water, your body does start to heat up that water around it. Where if you're outside, the wind is blowing, it's constantly creating this cold. So there is different aspects when it comes to the thermoreceptors in our skin, and how our body is perceiving that temperature. And you were talking about metabolism, and that's why I went on this whole rant, was because the temperature aspect, when that temp gets down to, about that 15, 16 degrees, it creates that, and there's a study on this. If anyone wants a study, I can end up and provide you the study for it. But the study shows that the exposure to air temperatures around 15 to 16 degrees Celsius, the brown fat increases by 37%. So many people say, oh, being outside doesn't have the same benefit, doesn't have the benefit of submerging yourself in cold water. There is still benefit. It's free. get your body out there, get those thermoreceptors. That's why I go barefoot. That's why I end up and go in a tank top. There's a lot of receptors around the upper part of your body, your armpits, those type of things. So make sure that you are exposing that so you can get the benefits. But yeah, there's a whole slew of studies in regards, and it's something that I could talk about forever. So
Right. Right.
I won't necessarily, but yeah, there are benefits. Get out, expose yourself, create this conductivity, if you will, not only gaining the electrons, you can end up in ground, even if there is snow on the ground. It will actually help with the conductivity because the ground under your body temperature feet will start to melt, and anything wet is going to end up and be more conductive. So it does still have that conductive aspect. So you're gaining those electrons with grounding, but then you also have the thermal conductivity that the body is being exposed to and generating that heat.
So we have a question that just popped up. It said, do you have an opinion on going into a cryotherapy business? Now, I don't know necessarily. I've actually thought several times about going into kind of a wellness business and having that, and then we moved. So, and now I'm in the middle of nowhere. So I don't know if a business like that would go over too well here. But I have done the cryotherapy quite a few times when I lived in the Houston area. Um, there was a spa place that I would go to, and I got I got in there, and it was what do you remember what the negative? It's like negative 200.
Let's just say most temperatures are like a negative 175, 200, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And of course I had to wear like earmuffs, and they gave me I had to wear slippers on my feet. Um and No, so they provided me, like, a sports bra that had no metal, and, a pair of shorts that has no metal. That's what I wore in there. And was it 2 minutes that I was in it or 3 minutes? I think I worked up to 3 minutes, um, and, I had them pipe through, like, some pretty hard rock music, and I moved. I did knee bends. Lifted my legs. I'm, waving my arms. I'm, moving in this. And when I tell you how invigorating it was pretty wild. I'm so glad I got to experience it. But, and then when we were in Florida in 2023, was it when we went to Florida? I did a salt my daughter and I did went into one of those salt rooms for an hour, and that was pretty cool too. So I like doing all those things. But speaking of, you got to experience something. Are you ready to talk about it?
Yeah, I can. I was working on the video for it, but to go back and answer that question, cryo can be very expensive. So a lot of people it can be very cost prohibitive, and there's a lot of different techniques now for using cryotherapy, whether it be targeted therapy or like what you did, the full stand up. So just with the cold exposure, and owning or running a business along those lines, I wouldn't make it my sole business. I would kind of what you were saying. I would have other health aspects in there. And the biggest thing to encourage anyone, that is going to do cold exposure is set your intention, and kind of like what you said, you listen to music, you excluded the world around you, right? When I go outside, I am very intentional about what I am going out there for, intentional about, my surrounding, if you will. What, like this morning, there were 3 deer running through the field. I'm not in my head. I am, not necessarily for me excluding the world. I am more present in my world getting out of my head of, oh my God, this is so cold. This is so cold.
Yeah.
But I do want to also say for anyone that is listening to us right now, be very safe with your cold exposure.
Mhm.
Try to relax, control your breathing, embrace it, but also be safe with it. So if you start to get cold, you start to, get symptomatic of being out there, don't be outside and be like, those crazy ladies on YouTube told me to do cold exposure and I can stand out here. I don't want anyone getting frostbite. So, little
Right.
disclaimer, be safe about it. Okay, so to go back to into the rant on cold exposure, to go back to your question, yes, that was part of my time off. I went and did a HBOT treatment. So a hyperbaric oxygen therapy treatment. So I'm working on the video with Dr. Murray. I did ask a few questions. He was kind of in between people, so I didn't have a lot of time because I did it. I was fortunate; they were open on New Year's Eve, and I had to be up there at 8 o'clock. Um, and I was actually talking to you. I didn't take my phone with me in there because I wanted my daughter to get some pictures, and I was originally going to live stream it, but I didn't have the service. So sorry, Instagram. I know I told you that I was going to end up and live stream it in the building. I don't know if it was the service I had or what, but it wouldn't work. And I didn't even get all of my recording with Dr. Murray. I got literally like 7 minutes. So I did get a few questions in there. I got a few pictures. Like I said, I was working on that video. I will get it uploaded. But yeah, it was my first time with a hyperbaric chamber, an HBOT. So it was different. So the one that they have is what they consider a soft side. So there's the hard, I guess, hard shell. And then the soft side. The soft side was it it looked like a time capsule for lack of better words. The top was more of like a canvas type and it zipped. And then there was like how did I tell you? I feel like I'm an astronaut
Mhm.
because there's like this little window where I could see the ceiling, couldn't really see, to the side of me, and a mat, and they gave me a pillow and a blanket, and I literally laid in this thing. Had the option of going for 30 minutes or an hour. I went the full hour, and what they do is they zip it all up, or you lay down in it, they zip it up, and then they bring it up to pressure. And once you're at pressure, you give them, like a thumbs up or a I'm done, quit. But they brought it up to pressure, and I literally just laid in there. And I know you called and you're like, "Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'll talk to you later." And I'm like, I'm literally just laying here.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
there.
I called. I'm like, "Hey," because I knew you were you were driving in the morning. I had forgotten what time. And I'm like, "Oh, blah, blah, blah." And you're like, "I'm laying here now." And I'm like, "Oh, well, enjoy." And you were like, "No, no." I think you'd already been in there like 30 minutes, hadn't you?
Yeah,
At that
yeah.
point, and you were like, "No, no, talk to me." So I ended up talking to you for the 30 minutes that you had left. And yeah, so you were describing it to me, which was kind of neat to hear, the pressure that you were talking about in your ears and just the experience.
Well, and that's where she's like, as I'm bringing you up, if you need me to quit, just give me the sign, and I can bring the pressure back down. Because when they end up and they take the pressure up, well. So first, getting in there, that's why, I quote seeing the doctor, right? He had to look in my ears. He had to make sure I didn't have an ear infection or anything wrong with my eardrums, because it does create a lot of intense pressure on you. And so anyway, they brought this up to pressure. They held it there then. And so she did come back and she checked on me and stuff. But you literally only have this small space, and it's like, what am I supposed to do? But there was so much pressure. They equivalent it to being under like 15 foot of water. So imagine, like, when you were a kid and you always, dove to the bottom of the 12 foot, or at least, we did. Imagine going even deeper than that. That is the pressure that is on your ears. It wasn't horrible. It wasn't, intense to the point that I had to quit. It felt very similar to going like up through the mountains. But it was almost like a constant pressure, right? I couldn't, like, if you're in an airplane, how you grab your nose and you can pop. That pressure wasn't popping. It was a constant. It did take me a little bit after the treatment for that pressure to kind of, relieve out. I mean, I felt it right away. It wasn't painful. It wasn't intense or anything, but yeah, there's a lot of benefits with the HBOT or the hyperbaric. I know I've had one-on-one clients that have used it. So it's not just for wound healing, and that's what many people have used it for in the past, is like necrotic, dead, damaged tissue, and more so even diabetics, which we'll go into some of the other questions that we had for tonight. But I mean, I think I come up with like 7 or 8 different conditions, if you will, benefits of HBOT when I was researching it. So
cool. Yeah, I can't wait to see your videos once you get it uploaded, and hear some of the interview. It'll be neat.
Yeah. But it was, like I said, there was the aspect of the ear discomfort. If someone is extremely claustrophobic, it could be, a concern. I never felt overly confined in there, but there are, a few of those considerations. So
yeah, that's what I said. I'll have to pass.
Yeah.
Nope,
But
not me.
like I said, once I get the post all together, I'll share it here on YouTube as well. But yeah, it was fun. I have a good friend that works for him, so it was fun to be able to go there and do that.
Absolutely. So we have some questions tonight.
Yes, we did. Couple different questions. And again, for anyone watching, the comment one, Karen said, I went to an HBOT business, but they would not allow me to use it without a doctor's order. That's interesting. So this was at a functional facility here locally. So I don't know, maybe check down there and see if any of your natural functional would allow it, because like I said, that's where I went. But yeah, so the questions, couple different questions in regards to sleep, waking up feeling groggy, feeling overly tired, lack of energy, disoriented, also known as sleep inertia. Couple different things in regards to that question for the person that asked that, or a few strategies, I should say, that we end up when we work on in the BNC to help with sleep, and that is meal timing. So spacing your last meal, at least we talk about 3 to 4 hours in the nutrition meeting, which actually follows this at the top of the hour. So your meal timing in the last meal before bed should be 3 to 4 hours. That's going to help with, when we look at circadian hormones, the cortisol and the melatonin. When we eat, that does end up in raised cortisol. It also raises insulin depending on what you're consuming. And those both oppose melatonin. So you're not going to have this normal melatonin cortisol cycle, if you will. You're going to have a secondary cortisol response, and that's going to interfere with your sleep, because typically you can see we're both sitting in the dark. I'm sitting in red light. You want, and I'll get into that here in my top 5 tips for sleep. As to why I'm sitting in the dark, but you want that lower light, you want the cortisol to not be stimulated. So meal timing, consistent sleep and wake. That is one of the biggest things I see in people is on the weekend, they'll end up and they'll stay up late, or they'll sleep in the morning, miss sunrise. Stick to a consistent sleep schedule. The more consistent you can be with your sleep and wake routine, the body will adjust. So that help aligns the sleep cycles. It helps to align the internal organ cycles. That will also help you to get better deep and REM sleep if you can be consistent with those. Like I said, number 3, lighting. So seeing the sunrise first thing in the morning. Many people don't realize that morning sunlight exposure signals the body to wake up. It reduces and stores that melatonin, the pineal melatonin, and then it helps to boost the energy level, which is where our cortisol starts to slowly take over, right? But also the sunrise and the UVA times help with the serotonin and the dopamine and the rest of the hormones. So having this window where you are getting outside, and then also getting a meal within 30 minutes to an hour of waking. I know we have a fasting question, so we'll get to that then. But hydration and movement, making sure that you are getting quality mineral water. We use our Shilajit. There's also Mother Earth elements as far as minerals. They're quality minerals, being able to add those to your water. Drink them warm can be a great coffee replacement. And then, like I said, sleep, dark, evening time, evening lighting, avoiding exposures, especially in the wintertime, to bright, intense lights after sunset. That's going to be disruptive to your sleep. You want to keep those between below 10 lux and wear blue blockers also. If you have to have lights on, blue blockers are going to be beneficial. And if you are like, what the heck is a lux? How do I even measure that? My friend Sarah Kleiner created an app called My Circadian App. Download that. It has see if I can actually open my phone here. It has a lux meter on it. So you can see the lux of light in my office. Oh, not really here. I'll hold that thought. The lux of light is, you can't see it. It's currently a 1. So there we go. So my computer screen is red. My office is red. That lux of light is low. That is why. It helps with the sleep cycles.
And I'm wearing the yellow colored lens right now for my blue blockers. I do have some clear ones that when I'm on the computer during the day, I don't know if you can, yeah, these are the clear blue blocker ones that I wear during the day. And then I have red lenses that will go on about an hour to 30 minutes before I go to sleep. But a little sneak little tip I can give too to add on to what Becky just said is a sleep mask does help at night. You don't realize that the alarm clock or I don't know. I mean, I'm sure if you walk into your kitchen, like, you've got the microwave time on, you've got, there's all these little lights that are on. And so when you're trying to sleep, the shade isn't, a total blackout shade and you're still seeing the street light or something like that, that a sleep mask will help as well. And that's just a little tip I threw in there to make me
Yep.
sound like I know but I really do have a sleep mask. I do utilize that.
I have a couple. One of them is more of like a silk, and it actually has, I know you can't use it because of your husband's sensitivity to fragrances, but I have one that has the ability to put essential oils with it.
Yeah.
So it creates that relaxing effect. But the other thing is making sure also that your cortisol is low. You can do breath work, which BNC is starting the breath work on the 14th. So we will be offering that again with Coach Kevin. Have, so many tips and benefits of incorporating breath work. But like I said, that'll be the evening of the 14th. But yeah, whatever you can do, tapping, breath work, Epsom salt bath, anything along those lines is going to help your sleep. The other question was numbness, swelling, ketosis. There are several different potential reasons as to why this can happen. One, I will stop and say, medical disclaimer, I am not a doctor. I am not diagnosing or treating anything. So if it is bad enough, and I know who asked the question, so I'm not worried about it, but anyone else that is watching the replay, if the numbness and tingling is bad enough, seek medical advice. My opinion, so electrolyte imbalance can cause it. Ketosis can cause an increase in urination, and that can end up and lose those electrolytes. So making sure that you are, getting quality sodium, potassium, magnesium throughout the day. Many of us are very deficient in magnesium anyway because stress depletes it, sugar depletes it. But obviously, if you're in ketosis, you're not doing sugar. So stress can still deplete that magnesium. Getting those electrolytes is very crucial for nerve function, and it's like the little messengers, if you will, in the body. So you can get that tingling or neuropathy sensation from just an electrolyte imbalance. Vitamins deficiency from doing prolonged ketosis can also create that. So things like B vitamin, B1, B12, those can both end up and be essential for nerve health. You can do a let me rephrase that. I'm not saying you. If it was me, because I can't diagnose, right? I don't want our YouTube taken down already in the beginning of 2025. If it was me, I would look at a quality sublingual B vitamin or even a B complex. The other thing kind of goes with the electrolyte side of it, dehydration. If you've ever been in the ketosis world or even the carnivore world, you'll hear people refer to things like the whoosh, right? Where people lose a lot of water weight. When you pull those carbs out, especially if you're doing like flexing, it can create dehydration because once you pull those carbs out, it creates a whoosh effect to where you lose that water weight. You lose that water that is held in the cell. Well, what does it do? It creates the electrolyte imbalance, right? So these kind of intertwine, but it can also create a lack of like potassium, which can contribute. So otherwise, if you are someone that is diabetic and have had swinging blood sugars, I'm choosing my words wisely here. I don't want to get shut down, and I don't want to
right
get slapped by the old, diagnosing or treating. But if you have been a diabetic and you have been uncontrolled or you're creating blood sugar swings, maybe you're eating things you shouldn't, or, bopping back and forth, that can also end up and create issues with circulation, issues with pressure on the nerve. So the more, not to say don't create metabolic flexibility, but do it properly. So, like I said, electrolytes, hydration could be a B vitamin issue. And then if it, continues, compression on the nerve, chiropractic care can end up and sometimes help that. But that would be my suggestions as far as why, or potentially why, someone could be getting numbness.
Very good.
Yeah. Again, Instagram over there and Facebook. I know we got several of you. I guess I stress them out.
Ah,
If you end up and you have any other questions, make sure you're posting them. We did have one more that was, I guess two more, sorry, that were submitted ahead of time for us. Gaining weight after extended fasting, and why does it occur? Number one number one
ooh,
reason that I am going to end up a go-to, and this is something that, you and I have talked about, because you were at one
yes.
point working with a doctor
Hmm.
that was trying to get you to fast longer.
Yes.
You would do intermittent fasting, and then he'd push you. I mean, next thing you knew, man, what'd you get up to? Like an 80-hour fast, I think.
No, a
Uh,
hundred, a hundred.
100 hours. I knew I was close.
Oh, 100-hour fast. Yep.
Number one reason that I will point to as far as weight gain is increase in cortisol.
Yep.
So those elevated cortisol levels potentially leading to fluid retention, fat storage, particularly even the post fast side of it. So I mean, if that would be my number one. Um, Water loss during it. Many people, when they're not eating, they're not drinking either. That can, one, during a fast, the glycogen stores in the liver get depleted, the muscle starts to get depleted doing, extended fasting. So the glycogen binds to water. So 3 grams of water per gram of glycogen. So once you end up and you deplete all of those, right? And then even though you are reintroducing quality food, because I know who asked this question, you're reintroducing quality food, you're replenishing those stores. So, you're rebounding that, but as far as during the fast, the body wants to feel safe. It wants to hold on. It wants to,
Hmm.
whatever you may end up be giving it, right? Maybe that's just bone broth, maybe that's water with electrolytes, whatever the case may be. It's going to try to end up and hold on to those because it's got the reduced insulin levels. It's trying to also, hold on to the electrolytes. It's trying, it's creating this tug of
Stress.
war, if you will.
This is stress.
Hmm. And then, obviously when you deplete everything in the body, the I can't even talk. It's a Monday. Digestive tract, the body will also try to pull fluids to it. I mean, there's several factors to it. I would suggest, as much as I know you love your fasting, uh, or the person that asked the question loves their fasting, I I would not be doing it on repeat for long periods of time. I get doing it. I would, and perfect season to do it is when in the winter, when we should be resting, we should be restoring, but you can also overdo a good thing. So do it cyclically. If you want to do your longer periods, make sure that on the hindsight of it, you are refeeding gradually. Small nutrient dense meals, don't end up and um, overfeed yourself, but make sure you're also staying hydrated. And like I said, do it more cyclically. Don't go into it as a routine repetitive pattern of doing these longer fasts, because it's going to ultimately backfire on you.
So I'm going to add my
Hmm.
experience in with it. So, and with my clients, if they are not, and I was not, and I'm still not, metabolically sound, adding a stressor like a fast is it backfired for me. And um, so, what would happen is wearing CGM, my continuous glucose monitor during my fast, under this doctor's care, my blood sugars got worse, and I gained weight. Um, and it was because it was way too much of a stressor on my body. Um, to the point that I think last week when we talked to Dr. Sean Baker, didn't what did he say about fasting? He for himself. I can't drawing a
He
blank
doesn't
now.
necessarily fast other
Yeah.
than, intermittent fast, or he doesn't, watch a clock. If he eats when he's hungry and
Yeah.
stops when he's full, essentially.
I think he said he eats like 2 meals a day or something.
Typically,
And
yeah.
yeah, and we know, you and I, Becky, we know that breakfast, uh, if if you're gonna fast, you're gonna wanna eat breakfast first because of your morning, cortisol spike, right?
Mhm,
And your
mhm,
hormones and, all the things, everything that's happening, in your body. It's you need to eat within 30 minutes to an hour upon waking. Then if you wanna fast, then you fast, after that, but, um, those kind of help too that I've seen, the people that do like to fast. Of course, in the BNC community, we also have a fat fast that, you have, done, that you've offered that, and we may have to bring that back around again, Becky, and
mm.
offer that back once we're done with this meat, fats, and fermented food challenge that we're doing, because that was a game changer for me for utilizing a fast. I had to do fat fasting instead, and my body did respond a lot better to that. But again, I'm not one that fasts. If I'm kind of like what Dr. Baker said, um, where I at least get breakfast in, and then if I'm not hungry the rest of the day, or if it gets too late in the evening and I haven't had supper, dinner, whatever you call it. And I typically do not eat um, after dark. Like that's been something that I've had to incorporate into my healing journey, was to make sure I wasn't eating too late at night. And so I had a friend the other day say something about, oh, we went over to her house to eat, and she says, "Well, is 5 o'clock too late for you?" And I was like, "Well, ish, but, it's okay. This time won't kill me," type
Yeah.
thing. But I mean, I started making, we had tacos tonight, taco meat. I had a taco bowl, and I put on my, yogurt on my taco meat. So I got that incorporated, my fermented foods. But I started making that at 4:15 today. It was 4:30, and it was like, "It's time to eat." And so we were done eating well before 5 o'clock. But just little things like that, paying attention to the different fasting that I've had to do. Um, Again, I really, if you're not metabolically sound, and when you start seeing the scale go the opposite way, and your body's telling you something. My blood glucose was going up, and those were all signs and symptoms of my body saying, you can't do that, Sherry. You're stressing your body out, and we're fighting back. And so just be real. My tip would be, just be cautious, right?
Mhm.
And I'm not a doctor either. These are just my findings that I have went through. So
And so a follow-up question to the fasting side, what about alternating water than fat fasting cycle? Depending on your stress level, depending on how you're feeling, it could be done. I would make sure I would I would look at it on like a month cycle, right? So a 28-day cycle, if you will.
mhm.
Um, because let's face it, I won't go into that. Anyway, let's look at it on 28 days. I, I won't get on that soapbox, but anyway, a 28-day cycle, I would do like the the beginning of the cycle, I would make sure that I was eating quality nutrition, make sure that I was eating enough. I'm not going to end up and say, eat what is enough for you. I don't buy into this whole eat in a surplus. You can eat at your maintenance level, right? Don't overindulge, don't end up in gain weight, don't, that side of it, but eat at like what your maintenance level is, eat at what your body needs for an energy. And then towards like the end of that, then put in your fasting, or do, if you do it more on like a lunar side of it, around the new moon, end up and eat at that maintenance, and then roller coaster. Just like I talk about the hormones being a roller coaster, eat at the top, your maintenance, and then start to bring it in. Maybe that's where on the downhill side, you put the fat fasting, and then at like, quote, the bottom side of your cycle or the full moon side of your cycle, you end up and do more of like the water fast. You do 72 hours or, a little bit more, and then you come back out of it and do, repeat it. So it's more of like this up and down. You're not constantly in this bottom level of under eating or over fasting, however you want to end up and look at that, and not coming up out of it, right? So I would do it more, like I said, cyclically. You can end up and eat maintenance, fat fast, water fast, fat fast, eat, and continue the cycle. I would not have a problem with doing that type of a routine.
So I did create last year my macro and healing journal. And one of the things that the journal does do and is it it tracks the moon cycles. So you can change your macros according to your moon cycles, and there's a whole thing surrounding that, but there was not anything out there like that. That's why I created it. It includes like sun exposure and, checking off, even drinking your water. But the moon cycle is something I felt very strong about adding in there. So, because during a certain phases of the moon, my macros are different. So, that's why I created the My Macro and Healing Journal to help kind of keep track of what's going on. And it's a digital download. You can print off a week's worth, a month's worth, whatever it is you want. But that is something that kind of helps you. You write stuff down too, Becky. You
Mm-hmm.
always have a piece of paper, kind of what's going on. And so I took kind of all that and combined it into that My Macro and Healing Journal. So if you guys are interested in that, comment and we'll get you. Actually, I'll put the link when this is done. I'll stick the link in there for that, but that'll help as well. Just keeping track.
Yeah. And that's where, the next full moon is next Monday, essentially.
Hmm.
But you would be able to track that cycle. So, and know when your next full moon is, when the new moon is, that whole side of it.
Hmm. It is.
So, in other words, what I'm saying is the next full moon is next week. So speaking in the pattern that I was just talking, that would be like the bottom. The next new moon is the 29th ish. So then like next week you would end up and have, the bottom, the water fast. The week of the 20th, you put days in there of fat fasting. And then the top of it would be the end of January, where you're at your maintenance, and then, go on into February. So just to kind of give you an idea, week to week, what that would kind of look like. But
Great questions tonight.
absolutely. Hopefully, gotcha. Awesome. Absolutely. I was just say, hopefully that answered the question.
So, I don't have any more questions on my side. How about you?
Have we had one more? I know we're running close on time, so I'll just briefly end up. And it was, again, I am not a physician. I am not a endocrinologist. I am speaking from experience and working in clinical practice with clients. Causes of decreased glucose while urinating can be caused by a lot of different things, honestly. There can be an excess of glucose that is excreted through the urine. I don't know a lot of the medical or history, so I am just saying, hypothetically speaking, it can be caused because you have high blood sugar, and when the glucose levels, when the kidneys can't absorb, but then you end up and you urinate and you excrete that, it creates a temporary drop in sugar levels. So kind of knowing, where your blood sugar levels are, making sure you're not creating these peaks and valleys. There is also a condition that can lead to it, which causes the frequent urination side of it in diabetics. Ketosis and fasting, kind of what we just talked about, can end up and do it. Certain medications, there's a lot of factors. But like I said, I know we're running out on time. Dehydration, again, can also end up and cause it too. So making sure that you're staying properly hydrated, making sure that depending what medications you're on, especially those that are designed to lower blood sugar, can end up and create a excess excretion through the kidneys. Not to say that I'm against, but I don't like them. So I will end up and throw that in there as the caveat. Not to name names of any, but there are certain medications that inhibit or are inhibitors.
Yeah.
But anyway, on a different note, so look at those type of things. Monitor your blood sugar level, stay hydrated. If it continues, end up and consult your doctor. As far as the issues. But in the last final minute, I want to remind people we have a guest next week.
We do.
So Charles Mayfield, I will let you explain, but we do have a guest next week.
So Charles Mayfield is with Pharaoh Skin Care. It's a tallow. I actually have it here. So his product, hold on, let me open the box sitting beside me. So he's got like this Pharaoh skin. This is a skin food. He uses lard with that. He's got some other products as well. But we actually heard him speak at Hack Your Health this past year in 2024, and he also does regenerative farming. So he's really a fascinating guy to talk to about all things natural, right? And so I'm excited to have him on. I've been kind of chasing him ever since Hack Your Health, and I finally got him cornered a couple weeks ago before Christmas, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll come on." So I'm excited about that. So you don't want to miss that next week.
Absolutely.
So don't forget, hold on, don't forget, comment, like, ask questions, let us know, anything that you want to know, any questions that you may have. But definitely it helps with the algorithms for you to subscribe and like. So we definitely do appreciate you attending.
Absolutely. I'm excited about seeing him speak too. Yeah, absolutely. It'll be fun. He is definitely very knowledgeable, has amazing products, has an amazing background of what he has created. And I know even on his site, we definitely align with him of what we talk about in the BNC, because we talk about how nature heals, and that's one of the things on his website, that he talks about how nature heals the mind, the soul, and the skin. So if we just get out of its way, sometimes we're able to provide it with that. So
Definitely. Well, welcome to 2025, everyone. We're going to make it a great year, and you know, let's continue our talk about healing the whole body.
Absolutely. I look forward to it. And thanks everyone that has watched. Like you said, make sure you like, share any of the interviews. If you have social media, find any of our, guest speakers valuable, share that because that all ends up and helps. So I appreciate y'all. And I've got